and dorks. So feel free to be your dorkiest self. All right. Hello, everyone. I think we're really live now. We're not. No, we're not live yet. We're not.
10 seconds, I think, or something. I don't know.
Yeah. My wife is in the other room moderating from that end. We're here. We're live with the crew and the cast. And in these projects, the cast is the crew, and the crew is the cast. So this live stream, we're doing intros of each of the cast members, and Michelle won't be joining us this time. They're saving themselves for ask the crew questions for the vampire chat that we have coming up on Friday, which is going to be really cool. So for those of you who don't know, we have a Kickstarter right now that is live that you can go to. And we are raising funds to finish 2 docuseries that are very weird. One is a long form docuseries that's a wild ride that is still going right now. In the background, there's like little like crumbs that continue the journey on. And the other show is an episodic show that's kind of like your standard ghost hunting show, but we just make it more queer and more what, guys? Anyone? I forgot. I'm supposed to call your names.
I would say more like normalized, but still, I mean, the freakiness is fun, but like not so sensationalized, very authentic version of paranormal investigation.
Yeah, I feel like we're not trying to scare people. I mean, sometimes we do get a little freaked out, and I'm sure the audience will occasionally as well, but we're not actively trying to scare people.
We're coming from a place of creativity or curiosity and creativity.
Yeah, for sure. So those 2 shows are what we've been working on for over a year. And some of the people, which you'll hear about further tonight, got involved in this and didn't think they would like be drawn into the story of this. You know, they thought they would just be kind of like a crew member, but that is just not how the paranormal works. So we're all still here, and we're all on a weird wild ride, and we want to share both of those shows with you. So it costs a lot of money to make shows happen, especially on network TV. It's like 4 times the amount that we're asking for, which is $66,666, because we thought that was cute. And we basically need those funds to make sure that these 2 shows can be properly well, we want to finish filming, but also like edited in a really high quality way. And then also we want to make sure that we can like market and distribute for future seasons as well. So, you know, to us, it can seem like a lot, but really in the whole scheme of things, that's not that much for 2 full seasons of content. And we have already over 100 hours of footage, and we need your help to bring it to your screen. And the cool thing is that we are self-producing because we don't want anybody to kill our darlings and tell us, you know, what we have to keep in and what we have to take away, and, you know, fake a lot of shit, which is something people don't talk about, is that a lot of the reality TV shows are fake. And so we don't fake anything. And I lost my train of thought, but yeah. This is, we need your help. Oh, I was going to say, yeah. So we're bringing it to YouTube. So the first season at least will definitely be for free on YouTube. And you can subscribe to our channel if you just go to newblood.tv and see what is happening. And for those of you who are like, but wait, what else? Like, how does Michelle connect to this? Michelle is kind of, I want to say like our fearless leader, but I don't know if that's accurate. What would you say, Stephanie?
Michelle is orchestrating things.
Yes. Yeah. So Michelle is kind of, well, if you've watched the earlier live streams, you know that Michelle and I met through Stephanie, actually. Stephanie started this whole paranormal wild ride that we're on. Yeah. Are you regretting that?
I'm not sure I started it. I think you started it.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So there were I had Stephanie on a podcast, my podcast, Follow the Woo, and we kind of like synchronistically even got on that show together.
Mm-hmm.
So we were supposed to have like a 15-minute pre-call to see if we were a good fit. And we talked for what, like 2.5 hours?
At least.
Yes, Giles.
Yes.
I love
absolutely.
100%. Well said,
Mhm.
Cal. And so then after that, she said, like nonchalantly, you should read the Psychic Vampire Codex.
No, I said I think there's something here for you.
Yes, in this book.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't know, vampires, we'll see. And I read it in one night. So it definitely had a huge impact on me. And yeah, so now I'm here and we've conjured each other, so to speak. And we want you to get to know us because it's mostly been just Michelle and I chatting, and we're the probably most verbose of the whole crew. So I want to shut up and let everybody introduce themselves and just kind of say like how they got involved in the project and what y'all still like about the project, I guess. And if you want to go first, Aubrey, I'll just go in the order that I see on my screen.
Oh God, going first is my least favorite thing.
Sorry.
Okay, wait, what?
Just your name and then how, like, what you do on the show, both like your technical role and then your more woo role.
Okay.
And then, like, what brought you to the team? Or whatever you want, really.
Yeah, my name is Aubrey and I am the director and cinematographer for the show. And actually, I think it was 1 year ago this weekend that I met Fen at a wedding.
Oh, yeah.
And then the day after the wedding, we were on a boat ride together and we just ended up talking the whole time about, am I allowed to say where you live?
Yeah.
Oh, about Louisville, Kentucky, which is where Fen had moved to from Los Angeles, and I am from Louisville, Kentucky, and had lived in Los Angeles. I don't any longer. And so we just, connected about that and then started talking about the woo. And Fen basically turned to me and was like, I don't want to weird you out, but I have a project and I did a spell looking for a cinematographer, and I think it might be you. And I was like, you really know how to sell somebody, because that's exactly the kind of pitch that will draw me in. So yeah, a few Zooms later and we were in Ohio filming together.
Yeah, and the spell, for the record, I specifically asked for, or I was like calling forth. They had to be already interested in the paranormal, queer, a cinematographer, and somebody connected. I used that word, connected to Louisville, which is so interesting that I didn't say like you lived in Louisville, because you don't, but that's where you grew up and you hit every single thing. And I was like, I remember like I had a conversation with you and then I went over to Ash and I was like, oh my fucking God, it worked. Yeah, it was pretty intense. Yeah, it's cool when spells work like that, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think you had told me your checklist until right now. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, those are, and I just kept like saying them over and over again, and I would like write them down, and I was doing mirror work, your favorite Stephanie. And she hates mirrors. And yeah, and then all of a sudden, like a week later, and I wasn't even going to go to that wedding. So yeah,
Whoa.
we weren't going to go. Yeah. But actually, truth be told, somebody helped pay for our tickets, and that's how we got to go. So it's even weird that I ended up being there.
Yeah, I think you could call it a synchronicity, Fen.
Yes. That seems to be what kind of like propels this whole thing, right? Yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to say about the shows to start off, or do you just want to wait till we get some questions?
I feel like everyone else should introduce, and then we can get into the show stuff, right?
Yeah. All right. Tigris.
Hey.
Hey.
I am a tarot reader, energy reader. I do a lot of things such as poetry, writing, an astrologer, dancer. But I was specifically drawn or lured into this project by, you guessed it, Stephanie. And it's because we met at where she works, and it's incredibly haunted. And we were immediately like, I need to talk about this. And I guess through that conversation, she felt the need to introduce me to Fen. Fen messaged me, and here we kind of are. I've been interested or have loved to like look at paranormal things, occulty things for my entire life pretty much. But I didn't expect that I would be able to have an opportunity to be a part of something like this at all. Being a part of a Scooby-Doo gang is like amazing, and definitely a path that like I'm excited to take. I'm a person who loves to try new things, but this is like I said, like beyond what I thought I would be into.
Yeah. I remember when Stephanie told me about you, and when Stephanie, like, I trust Stephanie like completely. So when Stephanie says something like, this person, you need to talk to them, I take it very seriously. And I remember when I first met you, and I was like, yeah, this is the one. This is the one that we're going to work with for sure. Yeah. That was a weird night, though. The first night we hung out, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
That was weird.
But at the same time, completely comfortable, like weird, but I was just like, this, sure. Why not? Let's just move through this as best as we can.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Stephanie, you're next on my little.
Okay, my name is Stephanie, and I got into this project via Finn and the podcast and talking about, what was that podcast even about at that point? It was ghosts and hauntings and energy work, and
yeah,
I mean,
we just kind of went down the rabbit hole together. I think we started with like topical for us, which was like ghost stuff.
Yeah, we did that, and then all of these synchronicities started happening. And the instant that you said you were moving to Louisville, I knew this was going a direction that I had to follow. Like, that was the moment where I was like, well, this is just happening now. So
Hold on.
It was yeah, hold on to your butts. That's the moment. Absolutely. But yeah, that's how that all came around.
Yeah, I remember that like Ash, my wife, was throwing out like submissions to certain tattoo places, because we were originally going to go on this like year-long woo journey, and I think I even mentioned that to you. And it was going to be like 3 months at each spot, and we picked these like major woo hubs. And then it just so happened that one of the places she hit with submission was Louisville. And like, I don't know how long it was, but it was super quick. The owner of the tattoo studio was like, this is it. Like, we want to take you on as an apprentice, like right now, we can get you started immediately. And we were like, well, fuck, I guess we're going to Louisville, which was really weird because you live in Louisville. And it was just like, well, how is it even happening? So we never even thought, and we were in LA at the time. So we were like, Kentucky? Like, for why? But for the record, I love Kentucky. I mean, well, I love Louisville. So
there you go.
All right. Taylor?
My name's Taylor, and I am like the complete opposite of Tigris. Like, I am not connected in this like paranormal world. But I got in on this project I guess right before, a couple weeks before you guys started filming, there was like a conflict with I'm helping shoot, helping film, and there was a conflict with someone, and that they kind of dropped out last minute, and then it was like, maybe this is something that I could like help out with, and I was like, I don't really know, like it's not really my thing. I've known Fen for like 20 years, but like she's done everything and I don't follow all of those things.
No, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but I was like, oh, like that's kind of a lot, like I got a wife and 2 little kids, it's a lot to just like walk away from. And then I was like, I don't know, I feel like there's something there. So like we talked a little more. I like pitched myself, and a couple weeks later I was there filming. So it was really weird that ended up happening, because it like,
Yes.
love you, but we are on very different paths in
Two
that world.
different spectrum. Well, and the funniest thing about you coming into this project is that you pitched yourself. It was like, I wasn't even expecting it. Like we got on, I was just catching up with you and your wife like we do, because we're family. And I said, oh man, I'm so stressed because we don't have this second camera. And you just kind of put yourself out there, which was so like unexpected. You know, I was like, really? Do you really want to do this? And I was just so pleasantly surprised. And then I remember Aubrey read your email, which was your pitch, which is so good. And Aubrey was like, yes, 100% yes. Like, that was the best pitch ever. And, you know, I can't imagine doing season 1 without you. I mean, of both shows. Like, I mean, Aubrey can say more about that later, but yeah. So, and you were the one too who was like the skeptic, right? And would you say you're a skeptic?
Yeah. I mean, I think I came into it being like, I'm sure people see weird things and like stuff happens, but like it hasn't happened to me. So like, I'm not gonna discredit anybody, you know, like that's, it's totally valid, but like, I haven't had any experiences. So I was like coming into it like, okay, like I might see some stuff, or like there might be a weird thing, or like something will move, but I was not prepared at all for where things went.
I don't think any of us were.
No.
But you especially, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Chris.
Yeah, so my name is Chris. I'm a paranormal researcher, and that's what I do on the show as well. And I met Fen because we both have paranormal podcasts. Mine's called Buried Secrets Podcast. So I was a guest on Fen's podcast. And I think it was just like after recording, Fen, I think you were like, oh, like we're like doing a filming. We're going to be filming something like next year. Are you interested? And I was like, totally. And I think that's just how I got involved. Yeah.
Yeah, you were. Oh, is Amarna here?
Amarna is here.
Chris, you were. I just remember like letting my wife listen to some of our podcast episode together, and we were just both like, "Wow, I really like them." Like, there is just something really like even about your energy. There is. I mean, now that I know you more, such an even composure, which I don't have. I'm, you know, as you all know, I have zero chill. So it was so nice to have like somebody who like approaches the paranormal the way you do. It's very like pragmatic and logical, and yeah, I really appreciate that. You're almost like the like Scully to my Mulder in a way.
Yeah, though I definitely, you know, believe.
But you are a believer,
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my brain is just like very like logical. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I would love to hear more about the string of synchronicities that brought the team together. How did you wind up in cahoots? So does anybody else want to start this? Or also, I will just say to the people asking questions, if you do want to hear from one person specifically, make sure you just say their name before you ask the question. What do you think about the synchronicities? I don't know if you can tell, but Stephanie, I'm looking at you.
I can't tell that you're looking at me, no.
I know.
They started very strong and very heavy. It was to the point where you would have to be like outwardly, physically trying to ignore them, to miss them. They were that blatant. And it was just coming so quickly. Like every time I would talk about doing the podcast with you and these strange things that started happening, people would start looking at me funny. Specifically, somebody else here in town was like, that's not normal. And I was like, yeah, you might be right. It might not be too normal. And then it just started snowballing and it got bigger and bigger and faster and faster. And then after you did that podcast with Michelle, it went off the rails.
Yeah, that was a huge synchronicity. Well, like all of
Yeah.
the synchronicities of us that we just said was kind of like the foundation. And then after I read the Psychic Vampire Codex and like no time with my, like all night, we like, you hooked me up with Michelle or somehow you like, and then we ended again, like Michelle and I were supposed to have an hour and a half conversation, and we talked for like 5 hours. And it was like at that point that I realized that I needed to do a show with this person. And I said this before, where we were going to do like a network show, because I was working with another producer at the time. And I had like this amazing pitch package for production companies and everything. And Michelle was like, absolutely not. And I'm glad that Michelle said that, because like we wouldn't have been able to do what we've done if we didn't self-produce. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think that was the catalyst.
Yeah. Once Michelle got involved, it was like, then all the synchronicities.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then everyone else started popping up so quickly.
Taylor, you seem to be skeptical. Has any experience with the crew or filming had any impact on your previous opinions?
Yes. I guess I'll just start with the first one. So it was myself, Fen, and one other person, and we kind of got to our first location, first filming, and we were just kind of like messing around. We were like, it felt like a sorority or something. We were just like kind of getting everything together, like doing all the things, and like we had like a day or two, and then Stephanie showed up, and I was like, oh, okay, like the vibe's changing a little. And then Fen, you and the other person, they went to go pick up, I think, Aubrey at the airport. And at that point, I guess Michelle had come over, and that was like my first time meeting Michelle. And you were like, hey, we're going to go like run and pick up Aubrey at the airport. And I was like, okay, like I'm fine. Like I'll stay here. I'm like doing gear stuff and whatever. And at that point, there was a REM pod, which I was like just introduced to. There was a REM pod that was going off, and it just like kept going off. And we did the battery check and the like things and whatever. And then it was like, oh, like that's really interesting, but like I can't see it, I can't feel it, like whatever. And then anyway, you guys were like getting ready to walk out the door, and I like distinctly remember the door closing. And then I was like, I'm now alone with Stephanie and Michelle. And like the vibe has totally changed. And so for me, that was like, that's when I started to feel like I was a little bit more open. I was still like, what's going on? But it definitely was like, there is something else out there, and like I'm starting to feel it. So that was pretty interesting. But yeah, then it like totally snowballed from there.
Yeah. Oh. I feel like everybody has a different answer to this. Somebody take it away.
I think just like how quickly and organically things started happening, because within like a couple of hours of me landing in Ohio, we were in the basement of Inspiration House doing a seance. And midway through, we all start hearing footsteps walking upstairs. And I just remember seeing every single one of us looking around, doing a mental calculation, and then we were all like, we're all here.
Yeah.
And you know, some
yeah.
what's that?
And that was just like step one.
That was just the beginning, and then like from there it just kind of cascaded.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with like how well things have been flowing, and to like speak to kind of the synchronicities as well. I had been going through a lot of periods of change and like transformation. Like I literally got into a car wreck right before I had to come film with you guys. And everything got like fixed and straightened out. My schedule, which is always chaotic and things are always happening, were like more streamlined than they usually are, and made room and made space for this. So I just felt like, once again, this is like kind of like what I was meant to do, explore this path. And so that was like something that was kind of like surprising, but like beautiful about the whole experience. And it's just as well as everything. The order of how things happen as like when we release the seasons, people will see what happened, but how it all unfurled and how all the synchronicities between all of the locations that we went to unfurled was like pretty impressive and interesting.
Yeah. Was there like, without giving too much detail, Tigris, was there like a situation during the filming of the show you were on that felt like it really stuck with you?
Oh man, so many. Probably the location within the. Can I say where it was? Is that okay?
I don't know. Are we saying location?
Not exact. Like I'll just say like a general where it was, like a school or.
Okay, yeah, do that.
The church was obviously the most like physically impactful for me. The emotions that were going through me through that entire day was just, whew, to say the least.
That was a heavy one.
Very heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. Did anybody else want to share like the weirdest or the like moment that stuck with you long after filming?
For me, I think we were in the garage with Matthew. That was like a pretty intense moment. And it also, I think, speaks a lot to like the boundaries that not only are we creating like for ourselves and each other, but also the things that we can't necessarily see. But Stephanie had like kind of put a stop to things. And I thought that that was like a really like responsible thing to do. And it's really cool that there's so many people, you know, throughout this project that have different levels. And the people who do have kind of like that, the more experience, I would say, are looking out for like, again, not just like us, but like the other things that are out there. But yeah, like that was like a pretty intense moment. And but it was cool to see that like she has everyone's back in the project and elsewhere. But it was also really weird.
Hey, Jimmy. How do you choose your places to explore? I feel like they choose us. Truly. I mean, I think we kind of had like a bag of ideas, and we were like, this could be cool. This could be cool. A lot of it was like me and Stephanie kind of like, ooh, this could be fun. And then Aubrey and I kind of jumped in together and we were like, okay, which ones could we actually make happen, you know, like on a low budget? Because a lot of locations, you know, they have high location fees. And so it was kind of weird which ones decided to reveal themselves. Like I didn't expect, I'm like still surprised that those were the like 3 locations for the episodic show that we went to. Yeah. I will say like a little bit of a sneak peek is that we are allowing, it's not really a sneak peek, but we are allowing synchronicities to like pull us where we're going next, for both shows, but definitely for the long form show. And we're already like sort of it's hard to not say stuff. Working on, multiple locations for that came up naturally in relation to the shit that happened to people. Wow, this is hard. When we were on set. So yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but yeah, no, not really.
Oh, what's a typical tarot reading or Reiki session like with me? I have no time limit. It's really hard for me to keep a time limit. Whatever messages come through, I like to say everything that I need to say to that person, whatever it may be. My Reiki sessions are usually separate from my tarot sessions, but I have combined them before. They're kind of different each time, but whatever needs to be said or whatever it needs to be whatever needs to be said or told to that person. I will try my best to do that and provide that, and also a sense of comfort. I hope that my readings are a place of solace, or people can find solace within them, and help them make sense of whatever that they're going through or whatever they need to know. I hope that
yes. Yes, Sparky. The names of the show, Taylor, are Inhuman Beings is the episodic show, and New Blood is the long form show, and they will be on YouTube. And you can subscribe to YouTube if you just go to newblood.tv, and then you'll be able to see like all the things there. But yeah, so it'll start on YouTube. I don't know what will happen in the future, but in the beginning, at least, it'll be there. But Stephanie, do you remember what you loved about Tigris's like vibe as far as tarot reading? Because it was so good.
I've seen a lot of readers do a lot of things, and Tigris was reading for a large group of people. She was doing it quickly and efficiently, but even doing that, she was able to give them such good information and make things that maybe weren't the bright, shiny answers, still make them soft and easy to understand. And there was a compassion level there that you don't always see with readers.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. There's like a gentleness to your readings. It's kind of, I feel like it's odd, but sometimes tarot readers are a little pushy energetically.
Yeah, I find that people are scared to get readings because like they've just had really horrible or kind of scary experiences. So especially if they're going out on a limb, whether it's their first time or they've gotten one before, but either it was or it wasn't the best, I try to like give them like a perspective that's not as scary, even if what they're going through is kind of terrifying.
Yeah. I think people will definitely see that on the show for sure. And I think it was so important for us to make sure that, Tigris doing some kind of divination, specifically, we use tarot a lot. The Watcher deck, which many of you know is Michelle Bellinger's deck. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's so weird.
I saw you using the Watcher Angel Tarot in the trailer. How do you like to use tarot on investigations? And is that the main deck you use for them? Yes, that was the main deck that I was using, and I love being able to use tarot in this way. I think that there's room for it. I think that there's room for any sort of divination method to be used. We're all so talented in different ways, and that's something that will be shown throughout the show, how different methods, different abilities can come together to reveal truth or to get answers in some way by just naturally doing what you're good at, or just kind of going with the flow of things. So I love using tarot for investigations. Not that I set out to do that, but here we are.
What kind of equipment have you used so far in your investigations? Is there anything you weren't able to use that you would like to be able to use in the future? So we use, Chris, you want to talk about what we used?
Yeah, so we used an ovilus. We had kind of like, there's one investigation where we had like a lot of different gear that we got to play around with. including an obelisk. But the biggest thing I'd say we use were probably like spirit boxes, doing the Estes method. Which, should I explain what that is? Do you think?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I feel like not everybody knows.
Right. Yeah. So basically, spirit boxes have been, they've shown up on a bunch of paranormal TV shows and stuff. And they're often sort of, people are pretty skeptical of them because you ask questions, you listen to this radio that's cycling through stations, and maybe you'll hear something that's an answer to your question. But if you know what question's been asked, then it's really easy to hear what you want to hear. So the Estes method was developed by, Connor Randall, Carl Pfeiffer, and Michelle Tate. Back maybe in like 2016 or so, in their series Spirits of the Stanley. And it's now very popular kind of like across the paranormal. And the idea is that one person is the receiver, they wear a pair of noise blocking headphones, and they're plugged into the spirit box. So they're just listening to a radio, a modified radio cycling through stations. And they say anything that they hear. Meanwhile, someone else is the operator and they're asking questions. And the receiver has no idea what they're asking, but if you start to get responses that feel like answers to these questions, then that's like really interesting. And, you're not just hearing what you want to hear, and something might be coming through at that point.
Yeah. That was a really good explanation of the Estes. Yeah, we maybe need to take that clip and turn it into a little TikTok that people can keep coming back to.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes it's hard to explain that like concisely.
It's kind of complicated.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And I think some people see that on like the ghost hunting shows and they don't know what the fuck is happening. There's not always a lot of explanation.
Yeah.
What would you say to skeptics who are generally not into paranormal TV, who are debating on tuning in and donating? Somebody, Aubrey?
Yes. Hold on. One really quick point to the last question, and then I'll answer this one, is that what we want to use in the next season is the God helmet. So if anybody has access, let's talk. Okay, so now this question, what would I say to skeptics who don't watch paranormal TV? I guess I would ask them why they don't watch paranormal TV, because I think there are a lot of reasons to watch our shows, even if you're not necessarily into paranormal TV. If you're interested in queer TV, we've got that for you. If you're interested in, I guess like our show, it's scary, but it's not jump scary. And it's not even, I don't think we've been particularly afraid of any of the entities that we've encountered in our journeys together. So it's a little bit more about learning and making contact than about being scared or chasing ghosts or being chased by ghosts or anything like that. So if you're somebody that's turned off from paranormal TV because you don't want to be scared, but you're curious about the paranormal, like we're a great show for you.
Yeah, it's like a gateway show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also like back to the other question too, definitely the God helmet. Definitely the God helmet for season 2. But we also used like SLS for season 1, which was really cool when it worked, but it strangely like did not work a lot of the time. I don't know if that was paranormal or not. And then EMF, REM pod, those kinds of things. But we also really wanted to do a lot of like psychic experiments as well. So there are times where we pulled in like automatic writing, scrying mirrors, the Ouija board, like putting people under, like having some people do stuff over here while these people do stuff over here, seeing what happens when we do that. Does it stir up the entities that are on that location or at that location? And it does. I'm thinking specifically of one of the locations for the Inhuman shows, like all of those things at once. So yeah, we did get to use a lot of really cool equipment, and we have so many ideas of stuff that we can do with just the God helmet alone. We have ideas for experiments, but there are many more. for sure, with lots of other equipment. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, also, so right now, let me just do a little check-in. We're at 20. So y'all have helped us raise $28,575. And it would be super, super awesome. Thank you so much for making that happen. It would be so cool for us to get to 2,900. I mean, not 29,000 tonight would be amazing. Just because it always feels good to kind of like take it into the next day with a new number. We are a project we love. So Kickstarter has chosen us as like a highlighted campaign. And so we're on the Project We Love page as well. And, you know, if you can't support the project, it's totally cool if you could just share it with people and tell them, shout it from the rooftops. Because the truth is, like, we really can't make the whole thing come to fruition without support. So if you want to see these shows, then please consider donating or sharing all the things. That's my soapbox. I'm done. Telethon over. Does anybody else? Oh, never mind.
What's my favorite spiritual encounter or ghostly experience? That's extraordinarily hard. I've seen dead people my entire life, so there's a lot really to choose from. But if I'm thinking back to specifically when we were filming the first show, there was one morning that Taylor and I were sitting downstairs on the couch, and it was like 4 a.m. And there's a feeling that happens just before a manifestation, you know, that sort of like electric feeling, like you can just feel the energy crawling all over your skin. It was that. So I knew I was looking for something, and I was looking sort of up and over, trying to figure out where this entity was going to be. And I looked towards the front door just in time to see something I'd never quite seen before. It was sort of this orangish light ball glow, however you want to look at it. And I've never seen something like that before. And I wasn't really sure what it was or what it was trying to say or what it was doing. So it was just a very strange experience that happened when none of the cameras were on. So it was, you know, one of those things that's just sort of there for a reason we'll never know. And at that point, I think Taylor and I went upstairs and decided it was time to call it a night. So it was odd.
No, you decided it was time. I was like, "It's fine. Let's stay up. Let's keep talking." And you're like, "No."
I always feel awkward putting people in a situation, especially if it's a ghost that I don't know or an entity I don't know or don't recognize. I don't like putting people who aren't used to playing with them in situations with them. You're never really sure what that entity is going to do. So it was better to go upstairs.
100%. Appreciate you.
What are the religious backgrounds of the crew? Pagan, Christian, non-believer. Interesting question, Karen. I am a practicing witch. Yeah, I am. I don't, and not the Wiccan though. I don't love the religious undertones of the Wiccan brand, but I have no problems if anybody else is into that. But yeah, that's me. I do have a little bit of a Buddhist background too, so I kind of smush Buddhism and witchcraft together. Aubrey?
Well, I was raised Catholic, but became a Satanist in 4th grade. But I've since kind of gone into a more nature magic sort of spirituality. I don't necessarily identify with any established movement, I guess we could say, but something in the sort of druidy realms, but not druid. I guess I consider myself kind of a hedge witch because I'm more of a solitary nature practitioner, unless I'm with these guys. Then we do group magic.
Yeah.
I would have to say that I'm kind of similar. I don't really have like a specific thing that I follow, and I was agnostic for a really long time. never was interested in church, but religion in general was always interesting to me. So I've looked at everything from Hinduism, Buddhism, Buddhism, the Ifa. Like I've looked into a lot of different things just because I find it fascinating. Spirituality, religion is fascinating when it's used as a form of like a beacon of hope. For a really long time, religion was something that was kind of jaded to me. So I stayed away from it only to circle back around and realize that I needed something, which is how I found tarot. So wild ride, it feels like for me. But as of right now, I would just describe myself as like nature-based, like Aubrey, and mainly solitary, unless it's with you people.
Stephanie?
Hard to describe, but I'm going to just go with other. Just a little bit of whatever works at the time. I think there's truth found in everything. So I've been called pagan.
Uh-oh.
No.
We lost you, Stephanie. Can you say that again? I've been called. Uh-oh. That's a hard phrase. Stephanie.
Hello?
Hello? Hello? Oh, she's mega frozen.
Oh no.
Fen?
Oh, wait, are you back? I think you're back. Oh, too soon.
Ever be near electronics?
This does happen when Stephanie gets near electronics, like consistently. You were so frozen. So I think you were going to say pagan was the word that was coming. You come from a pagan. I do love the face. She's like, oh, Stephanie. We'll come back to Stephanie. Taylor.
Yeah, I don't really have much of anything. I do feel like we're all connected. We probably come back over and over and over again. But yeah, I wasn't raised with anything very specific. So yeah, I just kind of here. I don't know.
Back?
I don't know if it's real.
Yeah, around electronics ever.
There you are,
I'm not sure
Peter. All right. So, continue what you were saying, Stephanie, if you can. Something about
There's
pagan.
truth found in everything. Yeah, I've been called pagan a lot. I'm not sure it's really the right descriptor, but it's the easiest one for most people to understand. So, like, if that's what label makes you feel good, great. But it's not really, it doesn't ring true to me personally, but it's close enough.
Chris?
Yeah, so I was raised Catholic. I wouldn't really say that I'm Catholic now, like I wouldn't identify that way, but I'm definitely interested in kind of like the Catholic pantheon of saints and folk Catholicism, though I don't have any like particular practice.
For Aubrey and or Taylor, what goes into filming a paranormal investigation? How do you make sure you capture what you need to be captured? What needs to be captured? Taylor?
Have lots of batteries. We found out very quickly. And just like all the cameras all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have, I think, cameras A through J that we've used in investigations. So we always have at least 2 cameras running, sometimes up to like 5 or 6 different cameras for different things. We have different kinds of cameras for different things. So we use you know, like DSLRs and cinema cameras, but we also use like infrared cameras. We use GoPros, we use, you know, drones and other things. So we just try to always have like a bunch of cameras on us and a lot of batteries, because when you're investigating the supernatural, batteries drain much faster than they logically should, and then they would in other circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. Do you remember? I don't remember what combination of humans it was, but when we were at one location and they literally had like a Home Depot bucket that was just filled with dead batteries because that's how many batteries had gone dead during investigations. Was that with anybody here? Yeah, Stephanie. Stephanie. I'll give you a hint. Do you know what it is? With
I don't. I've seen.
Boo 812?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I've seen that at a couple of locations.
Yeah. And it's true. I mean, really, you would just be
Mhm.
like REM pod, you know, battery in, REM pod battery right out 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we got pretty good coverage, although I'm so sad that we didn't have a camera available for the experience that Stephanie, you and Taylor saw. Like I know you can't capture the feeling, but at least like if there was any visual, that would have been amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you do any research before, during, or after to confirm any findings? Chris, take it away.
Yeah, I did a ton of research in a very compressed timeline too, because I think it was kind of like in the month leading up to the investigation was kind of when we knew all of the locations, and so I basically just like crammed an enormous amount of research into maybe like 3 weeks, and I've basically like prepared a report on every location. I like looked for every news clipping I could find, looked in every book that mentioned it, did a real deep dive. During the investigations, like when we were actually like on location, I wasn't doing research, but definitely like while we were filming, like you know, in the morning before filming and stuff, I was still like kind of like researching things, and kind of like getting my head around things and like researching things that had come up the day before that I wanted to make sure, you know, I had in mind then that for that day of filming and stuff, just because a lot of weird stuff was happening. And so kind of like as weird stuff happened, I was like, okay, I need to like look more into this thing or that thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we couldn't have done it without Chris for Inhuman Beings for sure, because those reports were like invaluable. I mean, we knew like every single thing that had happened in these locations with even more. It was more than I expected, actually, from like the research standpoint. And we started using the murder boards and like basically generated those murder boards off of your research. And I thought that was like a really important part of the shows. That we got to visually show like, okay, this thing connected with this thing. And then this little thing, you know, I love a murder board.
It was fun to get to see kind of how it all plotted out.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that
Stephanie does a lot of research too, and is a historian as well. So it's like, yeah, we get multiple sources, which is always useful. What is the most difficult thing about directing a paranormal show? It's usually when you go to direct a show, you have like a pretty good idea of what you're going to get. You know, anything that's in the documentary realm, you have to be open to change and open to shaping the story as it goes. But you generally have like kind of an outline and know where the story probably will go. However, in our kind of show, it's a lot less predictable. So you kind of just have to be always ready to capture anything that comes up.
Yeah, I remember like the night before we would film, like every single time, you know, whoever the PA was for the show at the time, and I would just be up like, okay, so what do we have to change for tomorrow? Because like all of these things happened today, you know, like what Chris was just saying too, like, well, these 3 weird things happened, and this is how we were going to approach tomorrow, but maybe we need to approach it differently. And so it was like, okay, do the whole like Google Doc all over again for the like shooting schedule the next day.
yeah, it changes and evolves very rapidly, and you just have to be ready for whatever this crazy universe throws at you.
Yeah, and when the other thing is when Michelle enters a room, it gets even weirder. So it's just like we're already weird, and then whenever Michelle gets involved, it's like ratcheted up, and then you have to let go and just like follow that, because that's, you have to let go of what you originally had in your mind, which is sometimes, I think, difficult to do. Did you do anything to spiritually protect yourself before going into these locations? Stephanie, do you want to talk about it? Or Tigris, either?
You can go ahead if you have something. Or did she freeze?
Oh, is she
I hope I
frozen?
didn't.
Oh, she's here.
No, I'm not.
Oh, frozen!
Electronics hate me.
They seriously do.
They do.
What did we do to
I did
spiritually?
not do. Personally, I didn't do anything, but I know that when we got to locations, there was introducing of ourselves to the locations, to the things that were there, doing a lot of things like that. But I think in at least the case of the first show, we weren't so much worried about like hitchhikers like you'll worry about from normal paranormal investigations. So we were trying to be a bit more open to experiences that might happen while we were at the location actively and while we were at that location passively.
Yeah. Also, to jump off of what Taylor said earlier about Stephanie, having Stephanie and Michelle on location with you, or even like remotely connected in, is a protection in itself. There is a level of protection there that makes us like more willing, I think, to go further down the rabbit hole than maybe we normally would, because we know there are people there who have experience getting you back out. And so that kind of gives us a little bit of an edge, because we can take more risks, I think. So that was my major protection. Kit Fox Wayne, someone associated with one of the paranormal TV shows on TV said that the producers demanded they talk about demons more or they would be canceled. Is this show going to be all about demons? Great question, Kit Fox. Stephanie, you got to answer this. This is your jam.
Absolutely not. Demon is a very small classification of inhuman spirit. You're talking about a fraction, and you're talking about a spirit that would be naturally not in North America. So you're looking at a very, very small possibility of something actually being demonic. We deal with a lot of things that aren't people and weren't people, but I can say on the entire shoot that we did, there was nothing demonic.
But also, this is why we're going the self-production route. Like, we don't want producers sitting around telling us to talk about demons. We aren't trying to like get people all worked up about concepts that don't actually apply to what we're doing. So our show comes much more from a place of curiosity, and we're not trying, things happen, and to an extent we're trying to make things happen, but we're not going to make fake things happen, or have a interaction with one entity and then call it a demon because that plays better for some demographic. That's just silly to us.
Yeah, totally. Even though Michelle is the author of the Dictionary of Demons, which is like, I think their best-selling book. So we didn't, even with that as like a background that we could push, we don't, I mean, it does seem like these shows categorize everything as a demon almost. It's so dumb.
But I mean, demons might come up. Like, we're not saying we won't talk to a demon. Yeah. If you're a demon out there and you want to be on our show, let's talk. But we're not going to make fake demons just for an audience.
Yeah. That's well said. Yeah. Because I do feel like eventually we'll come across one.
It's kind of inevitable. I mean, I was a 4th grade Satanist after all.
How do I love that story. Someday you have to tell that story to everyone. How do I help the Kickstarter? Okay, Cheryl, thanks for the question. And it looks like we did just bump up a little bit. So thank you everyone for supporting. So you can go to, Yeah, thank you. So you can go up to the newblood.tv, and if that's just the easiest way for me to think because it's the shortest. So if you just go to newblood.tv and then scroll down, it'll say something about the Kickstarter. I can't remember, but it'll be right there. Thank you so much, Cheryl. Yeah. What were we talking about? Oh, demons. How can I share this platform? Thanks, Dawn. So you can share the anything that we have on like YouTube. You can share anything that's on newblood.tv. We also have Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Did I already say that? I said that. So we're not trying not to have too many social media networks because it's like a lot of time and effort, and I don't know, it's annoying. But TikTok, we're going to be rolling out some more like individual content from each of the players and more information about like what's going on with the Kickstarter and what's going on with these shows. So, but also if you want like just a link to the Kickstarter, you can find it on the website. How did you generally go about being respectful to the spirits and introducing yourselves? You know what we did? We walked into these spaces and we were like, show yourselves. You're such, show yourselves.
In our tight t-shirts. That's
yeah, and our black tight t-shirts.
Yeah. It works.
We did the opposite of that.
Yeah. I love how just careful and respectful that we are. Once again, having Stephanie and Michelle on this team, I think brings that aspect to the show. And just we're also careful and mindful and understanding, of course, that there are other things out there. And so like, why not be kind? If you can, just be respectful.
Yeah.
I mean, we also believe in consent, like in this world and the other realms. So we aren't here to try to force anything with an entity that may not be interested. So
no. If you're not trying to be involved, that's fine. That's fine. No pressure here.
But also be careful what you wish for, because I think that there was a time or two where maybe somebody had like invited a spirit to like.
Who would do that?
Yeah, I know, right?
But I think, was it you, Stephanie, that was like, set your boundaries. Like if you're going to say like, hey, but anyway, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, there was more than one night where Stephanie was like, we're gonna do the double boiled salt water for protection because people have bad boundaries in this haunted house.
Yep.
Yeah,
we did.
Always looking out for us.
Yeah, but we came back a lot with like this concept. We talked about it a lot, that like if you walked into a house and you like with humans that are in body, and would you just say like, show yourself, and like start pushing them to, like, that's just ridiculous. And so we try to think of like ghosts are people too, inhuman entities are people too, and treat them the way that we would want to be treated. But yeah, Sue, have you had any spirit approach you? Yes. But Stephanie, I feel like you've had like 9,000 approach you. You should talk about this.
I've seen spirits my entire life. There was a point where I did not know a living person from a dead person, especially when I was very young. Like I couldn't tell the difference. I didn't realize I was seeing ghosts for quite some time, actually. So for me, it was more a matter of learning a boundary between what is physical and what is non-physical. But especially while filming these shows, I found that as time went on in each location, we started getting more and more and more. Like they would come and want to almost see what was happening. So I think on some level, doing investigations, especially investigations over time at a location, is a good way of drawing curious entities that might not show up at first out to play.
Definitely. Yeah, Chris, and you have, I mean, many of us deal with like haunted homes and stuff. Like, that's kind of one that you've had an interaction with, right? One in your home.
Yeah, a little bit in our apartment. And it's mostly my wife who's like the most aware of the entity that seems to be in our apartment. But yeah, we have things go missing a lot. We have a lot of issues with batteries, battery related tech issues. Um, Sometimes I've asked the spirit for help. Like I lost a couple sweaters and I asked for some help, and I didn't locate the sweaters I was looking for, but I found one that was almost identical that I'd completely forgotten that I owned and was like hidden in the back of a closet. So like I've definitely had like very mundane interactions with this entity. Yeah.
And yours are like less okay, Aubrey has to go. Bye, Aubrey. Have a good night.
Bye. Thank you all.
Yeah, we'll probably wrap up here in a minute anyway. Tigger says bye. One of the oh shoot, now I really forgot. Something that you said. Oh, yeah, for you though, Chris, specifically, do you feel like you feel ghosts or entities more or see them more? It sounds kind of like the former.
For me, I think like we were talking about, like I'm so analytical that I have a lot of trouble kind of like opening myself up to like be able to be aware of things. So I think for me, it's like I'm like, oh, this object moved, this light turned off, this sweater appeared in this place that I just looked and it wasn't there. This computer turned on a second ago and now it's like a lot of stuff kind of like that. I would like to be more open to things, but it's definitely like a work in progress. So yeah, just like super like physical things you can't ignore that I feel like I observe.
Yeah. Yeah. And we are winding down. Yeah. Anybody else want to talk about that piece? Like if you've had an encounter with an entity and like how it felt for you before we hop off?
Like just at any point, not necessarily during the
Yeah,
show.
not just like, yeah, you're kind of just to explain to the viewers like what your like how you connect, with entities. I know a lot of people are super visual. I'm not. Like I just tend to feel everything.
I think it does depend on like the type of person that you are, and like your level of experience with things. Like maybe Chris, once you are around these things more often, like through the show or in any other spaces, maybe it'll start to come easier and easier and you can quickly identify. And the way that we like come to those conclusions or what we believe, I think comes out in just different ways, even if it is more analytical or not. I've definitely had some experiences here and there. I'm a feeler, very like I feel something before anything else. I feel like it can come into different, sorry, tongue tied. It can come out in different ways with me though. Sometimes it's something that I straight up see. Sometimes I hear it. I'm clairaudient as well. So it just depends on the spirit, depends on my energy, depends on what's going on, how things will either manifest or come out.
Yeah. And that's true for you too, Taylor, right? Like you will feel like changes like physically, but not as much like visual stuff. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, there was one night, I think it was after we did like a seance. And I just remember like trying to go to sleep that night. And I was like in this like cute, tiny, cozy room. It was like the safest room in the whole house. I loved it. And like all of a sudden, like I could feel things throughout my entire body, like this like intense vibration. I was like, holy shit, I've never felt anything like this before. And then I was like, okay, like this is like it's like a mental thing. Like I just, like go through like a mental checklist, like go like from head to toe, and like I can control this, like because it's my body, right? And but like it wasn't working. And I got to a point where I was like, I need to go maybe ask Stephanie for help. But I don't know her well enough, and everybody is in bed right now. And I was like if this escalates anymore, like I'm gonna have to like step outside of my room. But I was also a little nervous about doing that. But I just like kept focusing on like breathing. I like couldn't feel my heartbeat. I was like, I know I'm alive clearly, but like I literally can't feel my heartbeat right now. We should have cameras in our rooms next time because
those like super violating like dating show cameras that they put in the rooms. Oh my God.
In the corner, just like you bundled up.
Yeah.
Like, man.
Yeah. Taylor's like, I can't hear my heartbeat.
I literally
Yeah.
was like, I know I'm alive, but I can't feel it. Anyway, it was fun though.
Yeah. Yes. Our next live stream is this Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern with Michelle Belanger, the Vampire Jack. I think I'm moderating that. So yeah, that'll be Vampire Night, and it's going to be really exciting. We've been wanting to work with Vampire Jack for a really long time. So, and we're hoping to have him involved in season 2, and his partner, Shane, who is the title is The Vampire's Girlfriend, and they're adorable people. And they're really enthusiastic about this project. So you should definitely tune in next time and tell your friends. And we have incredible new tiers that we just added, bonus tiers, 6 tiers. So make sure you check them out. They're really cool. I'm going to talk about them a little bit on TikTok coming up. And yeah, just keep spreading the word for us if you can, or if you feel moved or inspired by any of this that we're up to right now. So yeah. Any last words, you guys?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's a good one. Yes, thank you. All right. Is that a wrap?